Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Abel,
And this is Brandon.
and this is an Abel and Brandon podcast. Brandon,
Abel?
you want to go to the movies, dude?
Yeah, man, what do you want to go see?
I'm Rick Dalton. That's my stunt double. Actors do a lot of dangerous stuff. Cliff here helps carry the load.
Sounds like a good friend.
I try.
They play the heroes. But on July 26th,
Here comes trouble.
We do what we came to do.
playtime is over.
If you don't beat him, he kills you.
Not when Rick Dalton's got a shotgun.
From Quentin Tarantino.
I love that stuff.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, July 26th.
Okay, Abel, what were your positives on this film?
The positives I had on this film, man, that one, this movie was good, dude. It's crazy though to see these kind of actors too. That's what I like about Quentin Tarantino. I think he came out in an article saying that he likes to get actors that you haven't seen in a whole minute. You know, that's I really enjoyed that. And you know, if you go see the movie, guys, you'll see other people too from his movies.
Oh,
That are
yeah, he does that all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
It's
they're
really
kind of
cool.
they're not even mentioned, you know, like in the trailers and shit. Obviously, you get the big names, but there's some hidden gems in there too, which I really like. I like the atmosphere. I like how it looked. You know what I mean? I like the vibe. You know, honestly, if I had a time machine, that's the time where I would go. You know what I mean? It was amazing, dude. I like the stories. You know, some of them, not all of them, but some of them. I liked Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and I liked Brad Pitt's character. I really liked their connection that they had, man.
What do you think about Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate?
Yeah, I loved her, dude. The only thing bad about that I kind of didn't like, that was one of them. I just felt like they could have gave her more.
Yeah, I read an article, and then also I heard, I think it was like at a film festival, a woman actually confronts Quentin Tarantino and says, you know, you have Margot Robbie, this Academy Award nominated actress, playing Sharon Tate, a real life person. She barely has any lines in it. And people thought they were just like trying to start a story or something.
Stir shit up.
Yeah, stir shit up. But it's true. It was a little bit of a letdown. I could have seen, with the way she was performed in this, I could see anyone playing it. It didn't have to be Margot Robbie.
She needed more time, dude.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And especially because it's Margot Robbie playing her. Like, I would get it if it was like a no-name actress, but
Yeah.
it's Margot Robbie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's a big actress and she's really good.
All right, Brandon, what did you think? And before I let you talk, you had good intentions going into this movie, correct?
Yes, Abel. I went in with really high expectations, which I don't like doing because when you do that, the movie is always going to be a letdown in a way. But at the same time, it's Quentin Tarantino. Do you know what I mean? So, and, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie. I love everything with Bruce Lee. The guy who played Bruce Lee, you will admit, was fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love that scene with Bruce Lee and Brad Pitt. They're both working on a show, and Brad Pitt's like a stunt man. They kind of have a fight. It's awesome. I love the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio has like a breakdown on set, and he's like, I can't do it. And he's like crying. And then finally he just like proves everyone wrong, and that little girl's like, that was the best acting I've ever seen. That was good. The scene where Brad Pitt goes to the ranch where all the Manson people stay. Fantastic scene. And the scene with Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate going to the movies and just trying to see how everyone thinks of her performance. Great scene.
Yeah.
Also, I will admit the cinematography was fantastic. The costume design, the set design, and also the special effects. It reminded me a lot of Forrest Gump. Do you know what I'm talking about? How like they put him in these old shows.
Yeah.
That was really cool. So that's what I'll say about the positives.
All right, guys, if you're listening to us right now, and if you're done with hearing us kiss Quentin Tarantino's ass, and I want to touch on negatives without spoiling, but Brandon has to have spoilers. So from here on out, we're going to talk about spoilers. They're going to be negative, though, so we're not going to talk about the whole goddamn movie, but we're going to talk about spoilers. Just giving you guys a heads up. So if you haven't seen this movie, turn away now.
Unless you don't care.
Unless you don't give a shit. Because we're about to go off.
Okay, I'll tell you what I didn't like about this film. But before I do, I will say this. If you are a fan of Quentin Tarantino and you are curious, go check it out. But don't do it like how I did it. Go in with no expectations. This isn't Pulp Fiction. This will never be Pulp Fiction. Don't go in thinking this is Pulp Fiction 2. Alright. I go into this movie, and I hated this movie. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it.
Why did you hate it? Hate's a very strong word, Brandon.
I hated it because... Okay. I'm just going to go into each character. I'm going to go into each character. Okay, Leonardo DiCaprio. I love Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor. He's great. He's great in this film. But I don't give a shit at all about his character. His character is played out. A better movie that has a similar story with a struggling actor who ends up making it is La La Land. And Emma Stone won an Oscar for it. Go check that movie out. His character is just, I don't care. And I think maybe the reason why, and the reason I'm kind of getting a little bit harder on this part, is the references. I mean, they're talking about all these shows from like the late 60s, early 50s. And I'm just like, I've never heard of a single show, except for like Green Hornet and Batman. That was about it. So like, if I took my grandpa to go see this, I think he'd be like, oh, I loved all that, you know, but it just went over my head. So I'm like, okay. So I couldn't really get invested in his story.
Some of those shows were real.
Yeah.
I honestly did not think that one bit. And if they were real, I've never fucking seen them.
Yeah.
I've never heard of
so that's why it just went over my head. So I was like, I can't really get invested in this because I don't really care. What did you think of Leonardo DiCaprio's character?
Leonardo DiCaprio was actually fine, man. He played the obviously washed up actor who's fucking alcoholic, trying to find work, man, like always. And then you have his awesome buddy played by Brad Pitt, and which fucking loves him, you know, they're friends, man. They're best friends, man. You know what I mean? I don't think he sees that in this film until the end.
Yeah.
Which kind of like, come on, dude. He's on your house fixing your antenna, for God's sakes.
Yeah. So do you get what I'm getting at with like why I didn't really care for his character and his storyline because of the reference? Did you like?
I didn't get.
Did it kind of like affect
man.
you at all? Like were you just like, it's fine.
Honestly, I didn't even notice, man.
You don't
to be
care.
honest with you.
Okay.
It's not that I don't care. It's just I didn't really.
Like it didn't
notice.
bother you.
It didn't. Yeah, it didn't bother me.
Okay. So now we got Brad Pitt's character, and for me, this was what I was most excited about going into the film because, like, you see in the trailers that he's working with Manson.
Yeah, he's
that, but no, it's more so when you get to Brad Pitt's character, he's picking up a hitchhiker, taking her to that ranch.
Yeah,
and you're like, in my head, I'm like, oh, he's probably gonna either work with them or like give them the idea to do what they do. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, Quentin Tarantino likes to change the history, you know, likes to change history, so he gets there, and I like that scene, like I said, but they don't do anything with it. It goes nowhere. It's just he gets into an argument with one of them, and that's it. Okay? So, and then
you didn't.
It's like
you didn't like all that.
I liked all that, but I'm saying it just didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
Like I was hoping it was like. He was going to keep seeing them or something like that or anything. I just didn't like that part. Okay, so earlier in the film, another stuntman played by Kurt Russell, he goes up to Leonardo DiCaprio and he's like, I don't like your stuntman. And he goes, why? He goes, because he killed his wife. And there's like this rumor going around that he killed his wife. So I'm like,
wait a minute. Is he the OJ of stuntman? That's what came to my mind when I heard that.
Yeah.
Because he allegedly killed his wife.
But didn't you think when you heard that, you were like, he's going to be a killer in this movie? When you first heard that, did it come through your head like...
No, OJ came to my head.
OJ came to your head. Okay.
Not even that. I just thought that Brad Pitt's character, like, wants his best friend to succeed. So when you say he was going to go with the Manson family, I thought he was going to take a moment to reflect on how his friendship was going. And he's like, you know what, fuck this guy. I'm going to work with these guys.
What I thought was going to happen was, like you said, he cares about his friends so much. He's like, look who I live, look who I have living next to me, Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. So he's like, well, if I take them out, then he's back to number one. I know it's fucked up, but I thought that was where it was going.
Or not even that, where he helps him. He just mentions it to him.
Yeah, he's like, Sharon Tate or something like that. I'm like, you live next to Sharon, or something like that. And maybe like they knock on the door and like, hey, you want to help us? And he's like, no, something like that. No, nothing. Now, Margot Robbie's character. I like Margot Robbie. I think she's a great actress. This part just felt very hollow to me because when you think about like Quentin Tarantino, like leading actresses and stuff like that, and parts like you know, The Bride and Kill Bill, like that's such a iconic badass character. You know what I mean? And you have like the criminal and the Hateful Eight played by, you know, Jennifer Jason Leigh. Like it sticks with you, stuff like that, and especially, you know, Mia Wallace from Pulp Fiction, like very well written character, badass, holds up perfectly well with the men characters. With her, it just felt like I just don't know why she's here, other than the Manson stuff.
Yeah, exactly, and she should have more time, man.
Yeah, if they would have done it like how they did Pulp Fiction, where it was like 3 like little stories,
yeah,
like one after the other.
Somehow they intertwine, probably.
Yeah,
you know,
that
would
would have been awesome.
He said that he didn't want the movie to be about her.
Yeah, and that's fine. You don't have to do that.
But I mean, he put her in there to a point where I felt like, man, dude, why the fuck is she even in this movie, man? You know, thing that irritated me too about the movie is like they cut to her for like 5 fucking minutes, and I get invested, and then they take me out.
Yeah,
What
so
the fuck was
that's
all
a
about?
big problem I had with this film. Was he does this thing, and I don't understand it. I don't know if he's trying to be like artistic, but so at the beginning of the film, Leonardo DiCaprio goes to the set. He like pulls up and he's like, "Sorry, I'm late. My stuntman got drunk last night." And then just randomly, you just hear this voiceover come out of nowhere, going like, "Actually, what happened was this," and it cuts to this clip, and you're like, I remember I turned to you and I was like, what the fuck was that? And it never does it again. That's the only time. It reminded me of like the Wolf of Wall Street, but I was like, is this going to be like the Wolf of Wall Street?
There's
but
another thing
never
too,
does it.
which I honestly thought that it was just him talking to him, and they're cutting the conversation. There's a point to where he's talking with his hat, and then it cuts and his hat's on him.
Yeah, so he's on the set of a TV show, and the leading actor is talking to him, and it just does these like weird jump cuts where like the actor has a hat on, doesn't have the hat on, has a hat on, and it can work like that sometimes in movies, but this just felt very like
choppy,
like jarring and stuff. Like, whoa, okay, that's weird.
I had to like take him in and be like, what the fuck, did he really just have his hat on?
Yeah,
I could have sworn he did it.
And then they do this other scene that kind of drove me insane, where towards the end of the film, the last act of the film, Kurt Russell, you know, he's in the film, he plays another stuntman.
Then he starts narrating.
He just starts narrating for like maybe like 5 minutes for no reason. Like, I don't get it. Like, he should have gotten someone to just narrate the whole movie, or not have that at all. Like, it just felt very out of place and weird. Then he does these 3 other things that just drive me insane. And the way I'm going to explain it to you is, do you remember when you saw The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
Do you remember how whenever you would think something was happening, so like when she hands Luke that lightsaber, you think it's going to be this huge epic moment.
He's going to have a fucking moment. He's going to orgasm, dude. He has his fucking...
I mean, it's the first time we've seen Luke Skywalker in like 30 years, and it's, you know, Mark Hamill again, and it's so epic. And what does he do? He just throws it, and you're like, what was that? There were 3...
Well, that movie sucked, by the way, so...
Well, yeah. But this movie had moments where I was like, oh, I think they're going to do this, and they just don't do it. When you first meet Sharon Tate, Steve McQueen's smoking a cigarette, and he's talking to this actress, and he goes, you want to hear something crazy? She left her husband while she was filming a filming with Roman Polanski. And then you see the 2 guys, and they look a lot alike. They have the same haircut and stuff.
They're both short.
Then, later on in the movie, we see Sharon Tate snoring. She has this very kind of obvious snore, like recognizable snore. Then we cut to when Leonardo DiCaprio actually becomes big. it just does a jump cut to 6 months later, and he has the same haircut as Roman Polanski, and you hear snoring next to him while he's on the plane. And my first thought was, oh man, so that's what Quentin Tarantino changed. She leaves her husband, Roman Polanski, for Leonardo DiCaprio, and she's pregnant with his baby. And that's how the Mansons target them. They don't do that. Then there's a scene where Brad Pitt buys a cigarette from one of those Manson girls, and it's dipped in acid. And he tells Leonardo DiCaprio earlier in the film, hey, I want to smoke this, but I want to smoke it with you because I don't want to smoke it alone because I want to freak out. So I'm thinking he's going to be high on acid when they come over. Happens, but doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another thing that we gotta mention is Manson is like in one scene, and it's like less than a minute, and I was so let down by that.
Yeah, that was a bummer for me, man. Again, why the fuck even have him in the movie?
Now, I will say this though: everyone they cast for like the Manson family was fantastic, especially like Tex.
Yeah,
like that guy who played Tex.
All the fucking girls and shit.
Mm-hmm. But my thing is, let's just get to the ending, dude. You actually liked the ending.
Yeah.
I hated the ending.
Yeah. When I first saw trailers for this movie, what did I tell you? I wanted everybody to die in this movie. At the end, at least. Obviously, that doesn't happen. It kind of happens, but it doesn't really happen.
And like we said, you know, Quentin Tarantino's known for changing the past. I mean, he has a scene in Inglourious Bastards where Eli Roth is just shooting Hitler in the face, and he's like over and over and over
so,
again.
like, the Manson thing does happen, but it happens to Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio.
So the night of the murders, Brad Pitt takes his dog out walking. He has like a pit bull, and he gets that acid cigarette, and he's gonna smoke the cigarette. So as he's walking down the street, the Manson family comes by, and Leonardo DiCaprio sees their car and just chews them out, and he's all drunk and stuff. He's like, "Get out of here, you hippies!" And
yeah, you fucking hippie, because their car was loud, obviously. Get this piece of shit off my lot, you know.
Mm-hmm. And then whenever they drive off, they realize, oh, that's that actor from that show. Man, he looks like shit now. And then one of the Manson girls is like, why don't we kill actors who taught us how to kill? And I was like, okay, that's kind of neat. I like that.
Yeah.
And then so they end up driving back, but at this point, Brad Pitt's back in his house.
Yeah. So the first house that they go to ends up being Leonardo DiCaprio's house, which is crazy because they were planning on moving the next fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So it happens kind of crazy in a way because they just they bust down the front door and the other one comes out the back.
They pretty much do like what they were gonna do with the Sharon Tate stuff, but they bust in the door, and it's Brad Pitt, and he's all high and stuff, and he's like, "I know y'all," and it was like, but then it got really dumb really quick for me. I know you liked it, but
it got really dumb. But I mean, honestly, I enjoy the hell out of it.
It honestly like
because that was Quentin Tarantino, man. So basically, what happens is out of nowhere, Brad Pitt has a fucking full-blown pit bull, you know, in this film, and it ends up attacking one of the Manson followers.
It ends up attacking all of them.
Well, yeah.
And that's fine. Like, to me, like, it was a little dumb. I was pissed off about it.
Graphic, too.
It was very graphic, and at that point, I felt like I was watching a completely different Quentin Tarantino movie. I felt I was watching, like, Kill Bill or something. And I'm like, this is the movie I've been watching for the past 2.5 hours. But it's fine. And the thing...
You didn't like all that, man?
It makes sense for his character to do what he does. Because we saw earlier in the film that he ends up beating that guy up for doing that to his tire. And he sees that these people are probably going to kill him and that girl. So it makes sense for him to protect them. But then one of the girls jumps out the window after attacking Brad Pitt, and he falls out. She jumps out the window and lands in Leonardo DiCaprio's pool while he's listening to music.
Yeah, so when all this shit is going down, he doesn't even fucking notice.
And that was funny to me.
It was funny.
I laughed.
His wife's in the house asleep, You know, and Brad Pitt's obviously in the house. But yeah, then all this shit just starts happening, man. She goes outside, and I think
She falls in the pool.
She falls in the pool, but she's still I guess
She's probably on drugs and shit.
yeah. It's not. No, she's not on drugs. She got bit up by the dog.
Yeah, but they were all.
She fell through fucking glass.
They were all high when they were doing all that. But it didn't bother me that Brad Pitt did what he did. I mean, I didn't like it, but it made sense for his character to do that.
Yeah.
But
obviously.
when I really wanted to just walk out the movie at this point was when the woman falls into the pool. Leonardo DiCaprio gets up and he's like, "What the fuck's going on? Oh my god!
What the fuck?" And what does he go?
He goes into his shed and pulls out one of his old movie props. It's a flamethrower and just catches her on fire.
Yeah, torches her fucking ass.
And the whole audience was like, "Yeah!" And I was like, I hated that.
I enjoyed
it. It was dumb,
it, dude.
Well, I mean, it's just
Best part about the fucking movie, man, if you ask me. You know, I like also too is like when he finally got to meet his next door neighbors. So like, hey man, was that a flamethrower?
Yeah. So no. So I hated that scene. But then, okay, whenever you said at the beginning of the film when he's like, "You're Rick fucking Dalton," okay, what I thought was gonna happen, and it didn't fucking happen was because you're talking about how throughout the whole movie, Brad Pitt's he's not really getting appreciated for what he's doing. He helps Leonardo DiCaprio out all the time. And if it wasn't for Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio wouldn't be where he's at because he told him he needed to go do these roles. You remember?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So after Brad Pitt risked his life and saves all of them, he's in the back of an ambulance, and I thought Leonardo DiCaprio was gonna go, "You're Cliff fucking Booth," but they didn't do that. And I was like, okay, you had the fucking perfect moment. So then you have Emil Hirsch come out, and what's funny about that? It's not funny, but okay, Emil Hirsch character comes out. Now that actual real life person, he wasn't even supposed to be there that night, and that text shot him. So I think that's why they had him come out and go, "Hey, what's going on over here?" And then Leonardo DiCaprio just tells them all what happens. And then they end up inviting Leonardo DiCaprio over to their house to have drinks. And the movie ends with nothing happening really. None of the Manson stuff ever really happened.
It did happen, but it was just a once upon a time in Hollywood, man.
And I hated it. I really did. I hated this film.
You went in with your hopes too high, man.
So on the podcast, we have a segment called Pitch It or Fix It.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to fix this movie for you. Have it where Sharon Tate leaves Roman Polanski, ends up getting engaged with Leonardo DiCaprio. They end up getting pregnant. They end up living together. You could still have her be friends with Roman Polanski, but he's on set of that movie that he's doing. Mm-hmm. Brad Pitt stays with them because they're about to move.
Yes.
All that shit, all the same shit happens at her house.
So, but would you have them die?
No, I would have Brad Pitt do everything he did, and then I would have Leonardo DiCaprio do the blowtorch thing. But I would do it all at that fucking house.
Yeah.
And I think you change some stuff, but it's not so fucking retarded. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I would get rid of the weird cutting and the weird voiceover shit that he did, the narration and all that stuff. But in all honesty, I was extremely disappointed with this film.
So out of 1 out of 5 stars, what would you give this, Brandon?
1 star. Okay, well, what about you? Out of 1 out of 5 stars, what would you give this film?
I'm gonna give this movie 3 stars, dude.
3 stars.
3 stars, man. So, guys, we have a poll question today. What is it, Brandon?
Our poll question today is, has Quentin Tarantino lost his mojo?
All right, guys, I guess that kind of wraps it up for us today, Brandon.
Yeah, we want to thank everybody for listening to us today. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
It's all in the eyes of a dreamer. It's all in the eyes of the man. All the things that we've done in life and all the things that we've planned. Can the world be as sad as it seems? Where our man's hopes, where our man's dreams are the eyes of a dreamer. In the eyes